USS Spence, a Fletcher-class destroyer, was laid down on 18 May 1942 by the Bath Iron Works, Bath, Maine, launched on 27 October 1942, sponsored by Mrs. Eben Learned, and commissioned on 8 January 1943, Lieutenant Commander H. J. Armstrong in command. The ship was named for Robert T. Spence, superintendent of the construction of USS Ontario, and captain of USS Ian. Spence conducted her shakedown cruise out of Guantanamo Bay from 8 to 28 February. She then served as an escort in the Atlantic and Caribbean and had convoy duty in the Casablanca area in April. She was routed to the West Coast and, on 25 July, got underway from San Francisco for Pearl Harbor, to serve in the Pacific against the Japanese in World War II. History. Spence sailed on 25 August as a unit of Task Group 1.2 consisting of the light carriers USS Princeton and USS Bella, who would to support troops who took possession of Baker Island on 1 September. On 13 September, she proceeded to Afate and arrived at Havana Harbor on 18 September. Spence was attached to Destroyer Division 46 of Destroyer Squadron 23. The squadron sailed on 22 September for Tulungi, Solomon Islands. On the 28th, she set of surface craft on fire with her main batteries near Kolombangara and then patrolled between that island and Vella Lavella. On the night of 1 and 2 October, Spence was with her force off Vella Lavella to interdict Japanese shipping and helped to destroy 20 Japanese barges. The DD then made 2 escort runs from Tulungi to Purvis Bay during the first part of the month and ended October supporting landings on the Treasury Islands. Captain Ali A. Burke assumed command of Disron 23 on 23 October, and the squadron became known as the Little Beavers. On 1 November, Spence participated in the bombardment of Buca and Bonis airfields and of enemy positions in the Shortland Islands to support the landings at Cape Torokina, Bougainville. In the early hours of 2 November, Task Force 39 intercepted an enemy force of 2 heavy and 2 light cruisers with 6 destroyers steaming towards Empress Augusta Bay. At 0231, Spence made radar contact at 16 miles. While closing the target, she received a hit below the waterline but continued in action. The destroyer fired a spread of torpedoes at a ship 3,000 yards away and was rewarded with black smoke pouring from the target. As Spence retired to rendezvous with DD-512, she spotted another Japanese force 4,000 yards away. She opened fire, was on target, and watched one ship stop dead in the water and burn fiercely. Since Spence was low on ammunition, she called upon DD-45 to pour shells into the ill-fated destroyer Hatsukas, which sank stern first. The Japanese light cruiser Sendai was also sunk in the engagement. When daybreak came, so did between 70 and 80 enemy aircraft, but the Japanese lost over 20 planes while scoring only 2 hits on Montpellier. Spence retired to Purvis Bay on 3 November. The next day, she called at Tulungi and sailed with Nashville for Kula Gulf. On the afternoon of the 5th, she was operating northwest of the Treasury Islands when she was attacked by enemy aircraft. One plane dropped 3 bombs, but the closest fell 75 yards off Spence's starboard beam. For the next 3 weeks, Spence performed patrol and escort duty in the Port Purvis-Kula Gulf area. On 24 November, the squadron was refueling in Hathorn Sound when ordered northwest of Buca Island to intercept Japanese shipping which American intelligence had learned would attempt to evacuate aviation personnel from the Buca Bonis airfields. Early the next morning, the Little Beavers were patrolling the Buca Rabaul route. At 0142 in St. George Channel, Spence made surface radar contacts at 22,000 yards. The range closed rapidly, and at 0156, DD-512 fired torpedoes at 2 Japanese ships and scored several hits. Several minutes later, American radar picked up a second group of 3 enemy ships. Spence and Converse were ordered to finish off the first group, while DD-512 bombarded the second group. In the first group, Own Army exploded and sank immediately, while Macon Army was battered into a helpless cripple. Spence and Converse opened on her with the main batteries and she sank at 0253. In the second group, DD-512 sank Ugiri. 3 of 5 Japanese destroyers were sunk with no damage to Disron 23. The squadron returned to Purvis Bay on Thanksgiving Day. Spence operated out of Purvis Bay until late January 1944, when she patrolled near Green Island and Bougainville Strait. On the 5th of February, she participated in the bombardment of supply and bivouac areas at Hahela Plantation on the southeast coast of Buka Island. The next day, she sank an enemy barge with shellfire near Green Island. On the night of 9 and 10 February, Spence helped to shell Tiaraka and Tepecino, Bougainville. Spence's guns pounded Cavien and Cape Street, George, New Ireland. On the 18th, she then made sweep of shipping lanes between Cavien and Truk. The American warships encountered no ships, so they returned to Cavien and shelled it again on the 22nd. On that day, Spence and DD-512 sank a Japanese merchantman of about 5,000 tons with shellfire. Spence operated with TF-39 from 1 to the 24th of March to support the landings on Emirau Island. On the 27th, she sortied from Purvis Bay with TF-58 for strikes against Palau, Jap, Ulithi, and Woolai, Caroline Islands. From 13 to the 25th of April, Spence screened the fast carriers as they struck targets on New Guinea in support of the landings at Aitape, Tanamera Bay, and at Humboldt Bay, New Guinea. On the 29th and 30th, the carriers struck enemy shipping and installations at Truk, the powerful Japanese naval base in the Caroline Islands. The destroyer returned to Majuro for a period of upkeep from the 4th of May to the 5th of June. Spence sortied with TG-58.4, the fast carriers, on the 6th of June to attack the Mariana Islands. As aircraft struck the islands, the destroyer moved in and bombarded enemy positions on Guam and Saipan. The planes attacked Iwo Jima on the 16th and then returned to pound the Marianas. Spence participated in the Marianas Turkey Shoot during the Battle of the Philippine Sea on 19 and the 20th of June. On 23 and the 24th of June, aircraft bombed targets on Guam, Saipan, and Tinian. The destroyer conducted shore bombardment against Rota, Saipan, and Guam from the 26th of June through the end of the month, setting fuel tanks afire and sinking 2 sampans on the 27th. Spence replenished at any wet dock in July and, on the 4th of August, sailed for the California coast via Pearl Harbor and arrived at San Francisco on the 18th of August. She was dry-docked all of September and, on the 5th of October, sailed for Pearl Harbor and the Marshalls. She arrived at any wet dock on the 31st of October and was ordered to Ulithi in early November, where she was assigned to TG-38.1, the support unit for the fast carriers of TF-38. She screened the carriers in Philippine waters as they launched attacks against Luzon during November and the first part of December. On the 17th of December, Spence prepared to refuel and pumped out all of the saltwater ballast from her tanks, but rough seas caused the fueling operation to be cancelled. The next day, the weather worsened and the storm turned into a major typhoon. As the ships wallowed in canyon-like troughs loss of brine. Spence's electrical equipment got wet from great quantities of seawater taken on board. After a 72-degree roll to port, all of the lights went out and the pumps stopped. The rudder jammed, and after a deep roll to port about 1100, Spence capsized and sank. Only 24 of her complements survived. One of the 24 survivors was David Moore, an African-American who floated at sea for 2 days and also was responsible for saving the lives of 2 other men. Hull and Monaghan were also sunk in the typhoon. Spence was struck from the Navy list on the 19th of January 1945. Honors: Spence received 8 battle stars for World War II service.